Social interventions are complex and messy. How does realist evaluation deal with this compared to other evaluation methods?
Evaluation should always begin by recognising the complexity of the social programme. To help in that, I came up with this little acronym, VICTOR, or Victore, so these are the dimensions of complexity in my book, literally. So VICTRORE. So the first one is volitions, the understanding of the people, the understanding of the stakeholders. And I don't know a program where the people involved haven't had a different view of what's important about a program and whether it's work. So you've got a built-in complexity because people are interpreting programs and people are always different. Second one is implementation. Implementation often involves great long implementation chains. So in the kind of programs I'm doing now, they start with the Department of Health in Waterloo Road in London, and they find themselves right down to the hospital waiting room and the doctor's surgery, and they pass through many hands. And in that passing, they distort, they're shaped and reshaped, and it's not the job of any of the people there to implement a program in the same way. They're trying to improve and better the implementation of a program. So complexity is just automatically built in because programs are implemented by different folks along different chains. Context, I've talked about context, so there's no need to repeat that. This idea that contexts are embedded, and context doesn't mean locality, it means the different individuals, the different institutions, the different infrastructures in which programs are implemented, and they're always different. That difference adds complexity. Another one is time. Programs happen in a historical time pocket, and when they're played out is actually important. There's something called the showcasing effect. So when programs first arrive on the scene, they often work because they have impetus, everyone's rather excited about them. 10 years later, they're just part of the furniture, and work. So when they occur, makes a difference. Next one is outcomes. Programs always have multiple outcomes, and good evaluation should chase multiple outcomes. So if you're interested in a different kind of rehabilitation, a rehabilitation of someone in a drugs program, you want to know whether they get off drugs, but you also likely want to know, do they get jobs, do they get into education, do they lead a decent social life. So there are always multiple outcomes, and those outcomes are often contested. So if you think of the programs about the performance of schools, the performance of hospitals, those performance measures are always hotly contested. So if a school does particularly well, there's an argument quite often that was it the program, was it the school, or was it the intake? And so outcomes are always internally complex. Rivalry, the next one, we've got to the R. We live in a social world that's made up of programs. Policy is made up of programs. So you never get the single unwashed implementation of a program. What happens is programs are implemented alongside each other, and often they interact, often they're actually rivals. Those other programs and policies will always make a difference. So that's R. The last one is is the fun one, emergence. What this says is programs change the conditions that make them work. I'll say that again. Programs actually change the conditions that make them work. So my favourite example here is about closed circuit television. When closed circuit television first came in, it was used in terms of town centre disruption. This is a UK favourite. Kids getting drunk as hell at night, and so fix a CCTV up in the air and observe them and send in the cops and to sort them out. What happened after a while was that the kids, drunk as they were, got used to these cameras, and they started, in one lovely study, engaging in mock fights in front of the cameras, and by the time the police arrived, they'd sorted it all out. They sat reading Jane Austen quite quietly, and so in other words, the program has changed the conditions that make them work. And CCTV is a beautiful example. You can't move now in the UK without being on camera. So in other words, CCTV started as the program, but it's now the context. So if you've got any decent, worthwhile burglar, he or she will know that there is CCTV there, and they will change their behaviour accordingly. So that's the mess of programs. What can you do about it? My answer is you can only ever have partial knowledge. It's impossible. If you go back through that list of things, the poor evaluator, if they were to go through all of those complexities in terms of each and every program, they'd never ever get to the end. So what we have to realise is that evaluation is always partial, but the true secret is that partial knowledge is very, very important. So in any one of those things, we can study it. So we can focus a study on contextual variation. We can focus a study on different sorts of implementation. I say, tough luck, all we can ever have is partial knowledge. But then the twist is and what's wrong with partial knowledge, and to defend that, I call upon the great philosopher Karl Popper. The empirical basis of objective science has nothing absolute about it. Science does not rest upon rock bottom. So what he's saying there is no decisive data. There's ever no decisive data, and evaluators know that. There's no decisive proof that a program works or not. But then he goes on to say, the bold structure of its theories rises, as it were, above a swamp. It's like a building erected on piles. So his notion of empirical work is driving down into these piles from above into a swamp. So he says the piles are driven down from above into a swamp, but not down to any natural or given layer. So the evidence can only go so far. But that's what we do. We forever drive down further into the piles. We forever go on collecting these caveats about for whom, in what circumstances, in what respect, over what duration, and that will do. So look, his end point is we simply stop when we're satisfied that they're firm enough to carry the structure, at least for the time being. So the program theory is supported in the evidence, at least for the time being. And if that's good enough for Popper, it's good enough for me.